The contemporary man walks upon carpets of gold while his soul suffers from a thirst that no earthly water seems capable of quenching. We live in a palace of mirrors and silicon, where every material desire is met with a single click. Yet the echo that returns from the walls of our existence is a deafening and frigid void. There's a question that whispers in the corridors of the psyche at midnight, a disturbing doubt that asks us why, possessing all the tools for happiness, we feel like strangers in our own lives. If you feel this invisible weight in your chest, the sensation that something essential was lost on the path of technological evolution, know that this is not a solitary suffering, but the symptom of a civilizational soul that has lost its northern star. Before we descend together into the abyss of this understanding, I ask that you subscribe to this channel and leave your recognition, for what we will discuss here is not merely philosophy. It is the anatomy of the pain you carry and that the world insists on ignoring. Comment below the word meaning if you are ready to look at your own shadow and rescue what has been forgotten. The tragedy of modernity resides in the fact that we have conquered the outer world at the cost of the annihilation of our inner cosmos. Carl Jung warned us that by illuminating every corner of the world with the cold light of scientific reason, we ended up expelling the gods and the myths that once inhabited the forests, the rivers, and the stars. What was once a living connection with the sacred has become merely a statistical datum or an anthropological curiosity, leaving modern man orphaned of a narrative that gives significance to his suffering and his finitude. When the myth dies, man does not become free. He becomes merely a prisoner of literality, a being who sees the sun only as a ball of gas and life only as a biochemical process without purpose. This vision, stripped of symbols, is what creates the desert of the soul, where the sand of materialism chokes any seed of transcendence that tries to sprout in the heart of the human experience. We have exchanged ritual for consumption and mystery for information, naively believing that the accumulation of facts could replace the profound need for initiation. In ancient times, rites of passage served as bridges over the abysses of existence, leading the individual from childhood to maturity, from solitude to communion, from life to the acceptance of death. Today, we wander in a state of eternal psychological adolescence, where there are no landmarks, no sacred ground, and no elders to guide us through the forests of the unconscious. Without rituals, psychic transformations remain stuck in the throat, and what should be growth becomes a neurosis, an open wound that we try to staunch with cheap entertainment and incessant digital distractions. The lack of a legitimate ritual makes the psyche seek pathological forms of expression, manifesting in addictions, profound depressions, and an anxiety that devours the future before it even arrives. The collective unconscious has not forgotten the gods. It has merely seen them transform into diseases, as Jung used to observe with a surgical and terrifying precision. When we deny space for the divine and the numinous in our conscious life, these energies do not disappear. They plunge into the depths of the shadow and return as obsessions, phobias, and a feeling of emptiness that no material wealth can fill. The man who owns 3 cars and 5 properties, but does not know the weight of his own silence, is a spiritual beggar disguised as a king, a specter floating on the surface of reality without ever touching the bottom. This hunger we feel is not for food, it is not for sex, and it is not for power. It is the hunger for an archetypal connection, the desire to be part of something that does not die when the body dissolves into dust. We are starving for eternity in a world that only offers us the ephemeral and the disposable. Imagine a civilization that built cathedrals of glass and steel, but forgot the way to the altar, a people who master the atom, but are enslaved by their own most basic and dark impulses. The shadow of modernity is this immense mass of rejected meanings that now cries out for attention through the collapse of global mental health. We pride ourselves on our rationality, but we are tossed to and fro by winds of irrationality that we do not even understand, because we have lost the language of symbols. Symbolic language was the translator between the conscious mind and the oceanic depths of the unconscious, and without it, we are like sailors without a compass in a storm that never ends. The void you feel while looking at the glow of a cell phone screen at 3 o'clock in the morning is the cry of 1,000 generations of ancestors who knew that life was more than just survival and comfort. Jung taught us that life is not just a problem to be solved, but an experience to be lived in its dark and luminous totality. Something that the modern world desperately tries to avoid. We flee from suffering as if it were a system error, when in truth, suffering is often the call of the self for us to abandon the illusions of the persona and begin the journey of individuation. By eliminating the tragic and the sublime from our routine, we create a flat and two-dimensional existence where the heart does not beat, it merely functions, and where the soul does not fly, it merely crawls between obligations and empty pleasures. The myth was the skin of the soul, the protection that allowed us to face the terror of the universe without being annihilated by it. And now, without that skin, we are raw, exposed to a nihilism that corrodes us with every breath. The crisis of meaning is ultimately the crisis of a humanity that decided it no longer needs a soul to live. Observe the modern cities. Those labyrinths of concrete where millions of people cross paths without ever truly seeing each other, all united by a shared loneliness and a lack of common purpose. In traditional societies, the individual knew their place in the cosmic drama. They were a link in an eternal chain, a participant in a mystery that transcended their small personal biography. Today, we are isolated units in a global market, defined by what we produce and what we consume. Reduced to gears in a machine that possesses neither heart nor destiny. This depersonalization is the soil where the void flourishes, a sterile land where meaning cannot take root because there is no depth, only a polished and cold surface. The ritual was what gave depth to time, transforming the chronological succession of minutes into moments of eternity. And without it, time is merely an executioner pushing us toward the end. Jung's clinical experience revealed that most patients in the second half of life suffered, in the last instance, from a lack of a religious outlook on life, not in the sense of church dogmas, but in the sense of a connection with the numinous. It is not about believing in something, but about experiencing something that is greater than the small ego and its petty concerns with status and security. The modern man is like a fish that has forgotten what water is and now tries to breathe the rarefied air of pure logic, dying slowly while wondering why he feels so suffocated. We need to rescue the ritual, not as a mechanical repetition of the past, but as a living creation that honors the needs of the current psyche and returns to the world its sacred character. Without the sacred, nature becomes merely a resource for exploitation, and the other human being becomes merely an obstacle or a tool. In this incessant search for more, we have lost the capacity to be. We have lost the silence necessary to hear the beating of the heart of the world and the whisper of the unconscious that points the way for us. The cure for the crisis of meaning will not be found in a new gadget, in a new political ideology, or in a miracle pill, but in the courageous return to the interior, in facing one's own shadow, and in the reconstruction of a personal altar where meaning can dwell. We must learn again to read the signs of dreams, to understand the poetry of life, and to respect the mysteries that science can never fully explain. The journey of the soul is long and dangerous, but it is the only one truly worth traveling. For at the end of the desert, what we find is not nothingness, but the totality of the being that was always there, waiting for us beneath the layers of the dust of modernity. The final echo of this reflection should not be one of despair, but of a solemn awakening to the responsibility that each of us carries over our own inner flame. The void is not an end, but an invitation, a crack in the armor of the ego through which the light of the unconscious can finally begin to leak and transform our gray reality. Let this recognition of our spiritual poverty be the first step toward a wealth that the world cannot give and that time cannot take away. Do not allow your soul to be buried alive under the weight of things. Seek the myth. Create your ritual and allow the sacred to return to your daily life. For it is only thus that we will cease to be specters to become true humans. If this dive into the depths has touched something in you, do not keep this flame only for yourself. Share this reflection. Take the light to those who still wander in the dark of materialism, and become a guardian of meaning in this world that needs it so much. Think about the 1,001 ways we distract ourselves from the silence that speaks the truth about our insignificance and our greatness. We have built for walls of logic to protect us from the one true reality. that we are part of a primordial mystery that cannot be measured in bytes or dollars. The 2 million years of human history live within your genetic code and your psychic structure. Yet we act as if the world began with the Industrial Revolution. We must honor the ancestors who saw the face of the divine in the lightning and the storm, not by regressing to superstition, but by integrating that ancient awe into our modern consciousness. If we do not find a way to make the world sacred again, we will continue to build faster machines to take us to a destination that does not exist. The 10 movements of this journey lead to a single point: the realization that the treasure is buried where you least want to look, within the shadow, within the pain, and within the very emptiness you flee from, lies the gold of the self. The script of your life is not written by the society you live in, but by the archetypes that breathe through you. When you wake up tomorrow, ask yourself which God you are serving with your business and which ritual you are performing with your habits. If the answer is none, then you have found the starting point of your true initiation. The path of individuation requires that we stop being clones of a broken culture and start being the unique expressions of the collective soul. This is the only revolution that matters, the only one that can fill the void. Do not wait for the world to change. Change the lens through which you see the world, and the world will reveal its hidden light once more. This is the end of the beginning. 1,000 times we must fall before we learn to walk in the garden of the soul. But each fall is a lesson in gravity and grace. Let the 2026 years of our current era be the backdrop for your personal rebirth. You are the protagonist of a myth that is still being written, and the ink is your own courage to be real in a world of illusions. Go now and find the meaning that has been waiting for you since the beginning of time.